Okay, if we can call the first meeting of the year, of the 2019 to order. It's the reorganization meeting, so I open this meeting, then there's everyone, the new members are sworn in, same members, but the winners of the election are sworn in, and then we elect the president, and then I turn the gavel over to the president. So, in accordance with the state sunshine law, adequate notice of this meeting was provided, sending a notice, date and time, location to the extent known. The agenda of this meeting on January 3rd, 2018, and January 4th, 2019, to the Princeton Packet, the Times, Home News Tribune, West Windsor-Plainsboro Public Libraries. Copies of the notice also have been placed in the board office in each of the district schools on January 3rd, 2018, and January 4th, 2019, and sent to Plainsboro and West Windsor Township clerks on the 3rd of 2018 and the 4th of 2019. If you're curious why the 2 years, because we actually advertise this meeting a year in advance. So that's why the 2 years. The reorganization meeting of the West Windsor-Plainsboro Regional School District for the period of January 2019 through January 2020, in accordance with the state sunshine law. Adequate notice of this meeting was provided by sending the notice of the date, time, and extent known to all the places that I've discussed, plus the libraries, board office, and the township clerks. So, all right, the results of the election on, was it November 6th this year? We have the winners in West Windsor. We had Ms. Case. In Plainsboro, we had Ms. Juliana and Mr. Flaherty's. The referendum passed by 2,649 votes out of 13,735 votes cast. All right, this time we'll have the oath of office administered to each of the, in this case, returning members. What we do here is the person themselves, each of the three of you, one at a time, will read the oath that's been placed before you out loud, and then, yeah, we'll go through that process, and then after that, I'll take over again. Yes, the re-elected members. So who goes first? Let's start down that end, Ms. Case. Yep.
I, Michelle Case, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the governments established in the United States and this state under the authority of the people, so help me God. I, Michelle Case, do solemnly swear that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law for the office of member of a Board of Education, and that I am not disqualified as a voter pursuant to, or disqualified due to conviction of a crime or offense listed, and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of that office according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
Mr. Flaherty.
I, Anthony Flores, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the governments established in the United States and this state under the authority of the people, so help me God. I, Anthony Flores, do solemnly swear that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law for the office of member of a Board of Education, and that I am not disqualified as a voter pursuant to RS 19:4.4-1, nor disqualified due to conviction of a crime or offense listed in NJS 18A:12-1, and that I will faithfully and impartially and justly perform all the duties of that office according to the best of my abilities, so help me God.
Okay. Yep. Thank you. Ms. Juliana.
I, Rachel Juliana, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the governments established in the United States and this state under the authority of the people, so help me God. I, Rachel Juliana, do solemnly swear that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law for the office of Member of a Board of Education, and that I am not disqualified as a voter pursuant to RS 19-4-1, nor disqualified due to conviction of a crime or offense listed in NJS 18A 12-1, and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of that office according to the best of my ability. So help me God.
Okay, great job. Congratulations. Okay, so the next thing we'll do is we'll have nominations for president. What's going to happen is I'm going to ask for nominations. I'm going to open the floor. Then I'm going to wait a couple seconds as names are mentioned. And then I'm going to close the floor for nominations. And then we'll vote via the white slip, I believe it is, correct? Nope. Yeah, president is white slip. So we'll do that. Okay, so I'm opening the floor for nominations at this time. Mr. Flares.
I'd like to nominate Michelle Case.
I'd like to nominate Rachel Juliana.
Okay, I will close the floor to nominations. At this time, please write in the candidate of your choice and then pass your ballot over to me, and then I'll open them. Thank you. Okay, we'll start with Mr. Flares. A vote for Ms. Case. Next is Ms. Ho. A vote for Ms. Case. The next is Ms. Juliana. A vote for Ms. Case. The next is Ms. Krug. A vote for Ms. Case. Next is Mr. Zhang. A vote for Ms. Case. Next is Ms. Case. A vote for Ms. Case. Next is Mr. Chang. A vote for Ms. Case. The next is Ms. Hertz. A vote for Ms. Juliana. And I have one more. Mr. Whitfield, a vote for Ms. Case. So congratulations. And at this time, I turn the meeting over to you.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'd just like to say thank you to my board colleagues for the trust in electing me to serve as the president for this year. And before we move forward with the meeting, I'd just like to take a moment to acknowledge Tony Flares and for his service as our board president for the last 5 years. Our school district and this board benefited tremendously from his guidance and his leadership. So I just want to say thank you so much for everything, Tony.
Thank you.
So now we'll take nominations for vice president.
I nominate Rachel Juliana.
I nominate Louisa Hull.
Okay, close the nominations.
And use the blue slip if you didn't figure it out. Cool, thanks. Okay, we'll start with Ms. Hertz. A vote for Ms. Ho. Mr. Cheng, a vote for Ms. Juliana. Ms. Juliana, a vote for Ms. Juliana. Ms. Ho, a vote for Ms. Juliana. Mr. Zhang, a vote for Ms. Juliana. Mr. Whitfield, a vote for Ms. Juliana. Mr. Flores, a vote for Ms. Juliana. Ms. Case, a vote for Ms. Juliana. Ms. Krug, a vote for Ms. Juliana. Okay, congratulations.
Okay, as part of the reorganization, there's a number of votes that we need to take to continue just the regular business of the school district. So I need a motion on items 7 to 33. 7 to 33. Tony and Dana.
All right, we'll start with Mr. Cheng. Yes. Ms. Hertz. Ms. Ho.
Yes.
Ms. Juliana. Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Mr. Whitfield.
Yes.
Mr. Zhang.
Yes.
Ms. Case.
Yes.
And Mr. Flores.
I'm not supposed to go last anymore, but yes.
I get it.
Yeah.
I got it. But I already started, so I went there.
All right.
Yep, I got it. Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. At this point, we move to our regular Board of Education meeting for regular business items. It's my pleasure to welcome you back for the start of the 2019 year, and with a Happy New Year. I also wanted to say thank you to our board members, as this is School Board Member Recognition Month. Tonight, in front of you, there's a book that we give to you for your service to our community. We hope you enjoy The Deepest Well by Dr. Nadine Burke-Harris, a tremendous author, speaker, medical professional, TED Talk, and something that the administrative team has read as well. So again, it's just a token of our appreciation. Also want to congratulate the newly elected, formerly board members back to the table, and thank you for your continued leadership in this community. But I also want to take the time to thank the two other individuals that took the time to run for the Board of Education to serve this community. It takes a tremendous amount of time, energy, care, and compassion to want to serve the community, and we thank them for their desire. With that, I'll turn it over to, I believe it's student representative reports.
And congratulations. My name is Olivia Browndorf, and I am a junior at High School North. As the holiday season winds down and we settle back into school, we have had a very exciting kickstart to the new year. Over the past few weeks, Student Council has been planning our huge Harlem Wizards event coming up this Saturday. Finalizing our staff team and planning with the Harlem Wizards has only made our excitement grow, and we can't wait to see the turnout. Along with planning Harlem Wizards, we have begun to plan our upcoming Spirit Week, leading up to the North vs. South basketball game on the 25th. We're very excited to round up the marking period with such a fun-filled week of spirit and excitement as we get ready to enter the second semester.
Good evening. My name is Sonia Manloy, and I'm a junior at High School North. Within the next few weeks, Model United Nations will be attending a conference at UPenn, and Junior States of America will be attending a conference in Washington, D.C. As we get into the cold winter, our sports teams have been practicing very hard. At the recent SWIP meet on Saturday, our school beat Princeton High School. Tomorrow, High School North Student Council will be attending the New Jersey Association of Student Council Winter Conference held at TCNJ. At this conference, our Executive Board Vice President, Rohan Patel, will be running for the executive member of the State Student Council. Without the support from the district administration and our school, he would not have made it this far. Thank you for your time, and have a good night.
Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year and congratulations to the newly elected board members. High School South has resumed activity since winter break. This past weekend, South swimming teams competed in the Pirate Invitational, a day-long tournament where they placed second among a multitude of teams across the county. The winter concert for the South Choir and a cappella groups will take place this Friday night at 7:30. This Saturday night, the South Student Council is hosting a dodgeball tournament where students can form teams of 8 to 10 players and battle it out in the new gym. The South cheerleading team is going to Florida to compete and is currently fundraising for it. The cast and crew of South's musical Bring It On have begun rehearsals for their show, which they will perform on February 28th through March 2nd. The South community is recuperating from the tragic loss of a fellow pirate. Counseling is available for anyone that may be seeking it, and resources have been shared with the WWP community. Thank you all for your time, and I hope you all have a great night.
Thank you. Annually, the board gets some ethics training, so I'm going to turn the meeting over to our board attorney, Mark Toscano.
And if I can say quickly before Mark starts, after the training, I'm going to pass this not sign up sheet, but an acknowledgement sheet that you listened to this training and that you heard the training. Yes.
Oh,
So you have to listen. Thank you. It's part of CUSAC, very important.
Okay, there we go. Sorry. Good evening, everybody. Congratulations to everybody. Welcome back. I hope everybody had a healthy and happy holiday season. As our new president just announced, we're going to go through the annual ethics training for the Board of Education. As in years past, what I like to do in this ethics training, as opposed to just handing out the school ethics code, having you read it, nod your heads, and go with it, I like to give context to each one of the tenets of the School Ethics Act itself, give you concrete examples of how some other board members in other districts have run afoul of these ethical provisions. And then I like to highlight for you areas that the School Ethics Commission, which is the administrative body that enforces the School Ethics Act, what they have been focusing on within the last year, what are hot topics that I keep seeing year after year. Those are, without any surprise, negotiations, who can participate, who cannot participate, how do we define conflicts of interests. An area that the School Ethics Commission still is focused on is board member roles in interviewing candidates for positions. And then a couple of interesting areas last year that the Ethics Commission highlighted was endorsement of candidates. And once again, for the 4th year in a row, we had yet another advisory opinion on the role of board members, the permissible role for board members volunteering in schools. So I'll go through all of this as quickly and as thoroughly as I can. I promise not to keep you here too long. If I start to see people falling asleep, I will know to wind it down. The Board of Education is the legal body that governs the school district. It's charged with high-level policy making. It's the only entity that can enter into contracts or binding agreements. It cannot act in many situations without the recommendation of the superintendent. That is by statute, 18A 27-4.1. The board's conduct itself is governed by the Code of Ethics. The Code of Ethics has 10 tenets, and I kind of label them with titles so that it's easier to follow. Rather than read each one to you, I put them up. You have the text, you have the slides. But I also put, and this was a addition to the administrative code about 3 years ago, where the Commissioner of Education listed what they would consider to be evidence of a violation of each provision. So that is on the slide as well. So the first one is, I just term it, uphold all laws. Board members agreed to uphold and enforce all laws, rules, and regulations of the State Board of Education and the courts. Kind of common sense. Some examples. concrete examples where board members went afoul. Had a board member in 2014 violate this code when he intended to issue a board employee a rice notice, which is a notice that the board intends to discuss the performance or employment of an individual employee without following the proper legal procedure of seeking board authority, consulting with the board, or going through the superintendent. That's a violation of a number of laws. It's pretty straightforward. Last year, there was actually a decision that was issued, and it was an interesting year last year with the School Ethics Commission. Those of you that had sit through this presentation before know you've heard me rail about a number of advisory opinions. In 2015 alone, there were 33 advisory opinions issued, 2 decisions. And each year thereafter, there have been considerably more advisory opinions than actual decisions. Last year, the School Ethics Commission issued 3 advisory opinions and close to 30 decisions. So it was an inverse year last year. So I'll try to highlight the recent decisions as we go through. In the first case from last year, an allegation was filed against the Board of Education that they failed to conduct a lottery or drawing that was required by their board policy. This was a district that had a send-receive relationship with 2 separate districts for their high schools. They would draw a lottery, and the students would either go to high school A or high school B. That lottery was not conducted. A member of the public said, well, this is a violation. You did not uphold all laws. The Ethics Commission dismissed the complaint, saying basically this uphold all laws does not apply to board policies. It applies to state laws and administrative code provisions. Another one from last year, a board member was alleged not to be a bona fide resident of the district. One of the requirements, you heard each one of the members give their oath. One of the requirements is that they be a legal resident of the district. The allegation there was, well, they failed to uphold all laws. That was dismissed because that deals with the qualifications of a board member to serve. It's not an ethics violation, but it would be deemed a disqualification of the board member and their ability to serve. So those were the 2 cases from last year. Second provision, board members will make decisions in terms of the educational welfare of the children and will seek to maintain public schools that meet the needs of the children regardless of ability, race, creed, sex, or social standing. I call this the educational welfare. This is why, wow, did I break it? Okay, we're still here. Okay, sorry. This is why you're all here. You're here for the educational welfare of the students. You know, these are always kind of comical a little bit. You see where board members ran afoul. You had a board member, 2010, violate this provision when he released an ethics complaint filed against a board member to the media, which contained confidential information regarding the board member's student child. Again, a decision or an action not in the educational welfare of the students. Another one, a board member violated this provision by by claiming that the board interrupted his presentation before the board policy legislative committee concerning a new football stadium. This is kind of entertaining, but it's a good case to focus on and understand. What the Ethics Commission said in that case is that a disagreement over a board decision, if this board had voted to put the referendum to a vote, the community had said no, somebody could not have filed an ethics complaint against the board saying that decision wasn't in the educational welfare of students. Disagreement over a board decision doesn't mean that one side or the other does not have the educational welfare of students at heart. So this was actually a very good decision that has, it's important always to highlight that it frames that the Ethics Commission is not going to get involved in policy disputes. The third provision, limit to policy making. Those of you that I've worked with me in the past, you'll hear me rattle off. Board members are limited to policy, planning, and appraisal. Those are the big three. Board members frame policies and plans after they consult with those who are affected by them. Some cases here, you really see board members overstepping that policy, planning, and appraisal role. 2014, you had some board members decide to conduct a site visit to assess a candidate for assistant superintendent without board authority. They went on a site visit to go look at a candidate in another school district. That is far exceeding the policy, planning, and appraisal role. However, Last year, there was an ethics decision where it was found that the board members did not violate this provision, where they took action on a personnel matter to non-renew a staff member when the community as a whole came out en masse in support of this staff member. The Ethics Commission, just like with the prior decision I highlighted about educational welfare, they're not going to get into policy disputes. They're also not going to get into disputes over personnel. The Ethics Commission indicated there that disagreement with the opinion of the public and public views does not mean that the board did not consult with the public and did not consider their opinion before rendering the decision. Disagreement with public sentiment does not mean an ethics violation. You are free to make up your own minds. You are the representatives of the community. No micromanaging, kind of feeding off, limiting your roles to policy planning and appraisal. Board members have to carry out their responsibility not to administer schools, but together with their fellow members to see that they are well run. I also like to call this no giving direct orders to school personnel. Board members funnel through the superintendent, and pretty much, if it's for most matters, if it's finance matters, it usually will funnel here through the assistant superintendent for finance. You see here the print's kind of small. There's always a lot of violations here. Thankfully, none last year. These are always kind of entertaining. 2010, we had a board member violate the code by coming into the superintendent's office, instructing the superintendent to allow a graduating senior that they were going to participate in graduation ceremonies, even though the superintendent had determined that the student would not participate. That's overstepping the bound. Again, another case in point, 2006, a board member violated this provision when he decided to go visit the schools, not notify the superintendent, decided to take his camera out, take pictures of open windows in the middle school, items in the board office bathroom, and he then proceeded to hold a press conference outside of the school. Again, micromanaging. Another one, a board member violated this provision when he unilaterally went to the guidance office, demanded to receive copies of SAT reports, then proceeded to go to the board's locker room, inspect the locker rooms, and then went to the cafeteria to eat lunch with the students because he wanted to evaluate the food. Again, exceeding the role, the policy planning and appraisal, and far exceeding the role of a board member. Number 5, board members recognize that authority rests with the board itself and will make no personal promises or take private action that compromise the board. Decision last year, in 2018, this was interesting. A board member was contacted by the superintendent to obtain approval for a time-sensitive facility use request. In this particular school district, it was not uncommon for members of the community to seek to hold funeral receptions within the school buildings, in the classrooms on the weekend. Due to the time frame when the request came in and when the service was to be held, there was not going to be a board meeting. Superintendent was in favor of the request. Board secretary, director of facilities was in favor of the request. There was a history in the district of approving these requests. Superintendent properly reached out to the board president, said, do we have your consent? We're going to do this in between meetings. Board president said yes. One of the board members was not happy that this had happened and filed an ethics charge against the board president and indicated that the board president only said yes because the person that passed was a perceived political ally of that board president and friend. So that was dismissed. Again, it was not deemed to be unethical. However, in 2014, a board member was found to violate this code when they made personal promises to a candidate for an assistant superintendent position by advancing the possibility of his or her employment. The interesting part about this decision is that that took place at a bar in Long Beach Island during the summer. So a board member decided that it would be a good idea to offer the job to somebody and to convince them to apply. Again, making a personal promise, that's not permitted. Number 6, board members refuse to surrender any independent judgment to special interest or partisan political groups or use the schools for personal gain. Again, you're here for the educational welfare of students. Board members are permitted, just because you are elected to the Board of Education, you do not give up your political rights. You are able to endorse candidates for election. so long as the endorsement is made by yourself as a private citizen, not as a board member or on behalf of the board itself. Have any questions in that respect, please, always, you can reach out to me. There was a case last year where it was alleged that a board member acted for personal gain. The board president received, but didn't share with the board immediately, a confidential memo that came from the governing body of the municipality where the school board was located. Apparently, one of the board members was a little curt and disrespectful to a police officer during a traffic stop. The municipal body sent a memo to the board president expressing concern over the conduct. The board president reached out to the member and told the member that they had until a certain date to report the matter to the board. Otherwise, the board president was going to discuss it. At the next meeting, the individual did disclose what had transpired. It was also made public. But the ethics complaint against the board president was that the board president didn't share the memo with the board members as soon as possible because this member was perceived to be a friend or political ally. Again, this was dismissed. The rule of thumb for board presidents is what you learn or what is shared with you in between meetings, you share with the fellow members at the next full meeting. We've practiced that here for a long time. So again, just highlighting where they've focused on prior decisions. Number 7, board members maintain confidentiality in all members pertaining to the school, which if disclosed would needlessly injure individuals or the schools themselves. When you do provide information, it must be accurate. Oops, I'm sorry, I went a little fast. Case in points here, emails, this maintain confidentiality. There was a decision in 2016. Sometimes you're seeing more and more Open Public Records Act requests for emails and email communications. Just because somebody writes on an email, this is confidential, does not mean it's confidential. Emails to and from school board members pertaining to school board business are subject to Open Public Records Act requests, regardless of what a sender may write on his or her email. Last year, there was an ethics complaint that was decided. It's got a 2017 number, but it was issued last year. A board member was accused of lying to the public on 6 occasions in connection with their candidacy for the board. The Ethics Commission focused here on the second provision of this provision of the code, that you have to provide accurate information. The Ethics Commission indicated that because the commentary and the statements had to do with the board member's candidacy for the board and not the business of the board, it was not an Ethics Act violation, or that they did express concern about the board member's conduct. But again, this is maintaining confidentiality and accurate information as to board business. Number 8, board members vote to appoint the best qualified person after consideration of the recommendation of the superintendent. I always just like to highlight, although you have to consider the recommendation of the superintendent, it is not a blank check. It does not mean you are a rubber stamp. If you are going to disagree with the recommendation of the superintendent, that decision cannot be arbitrary, cannot be capricious, cannot be unreasonable, and it cannot be for illegal or discriminatory means. Number 9, support district personnel in the proper performance of their duties. That's all district personnel, superintendent, business administrator, teaching staff. It's why, for members of the public, if there are comments made during a board meeting, if it pertains to a public employee's performance, the board members will not respond, because it is against the ethical tenet for them to speak out against employees in the proper performance of their duties. There was a case last year that was very interesting. A union brought an ethics complaint against the local Board of Education because there was a very contentious special education IEP team meeting. And in that meeting, the district proposed a program, an in-district program for a student. The parent indicated during the meeting that they wanted to come in, they wanted to visit the program, which under the special education code in New Jersey is a parent's right. If the district proposes a program, the parent has the right to come see the program. This school district had a policy noting that any classroom visits, the teachers needed to be provided 24 hours notice. Here, because of the time constraints and trying to start the program, the board and the principal did not provide 24 hours notice. The association filed an ethics complaint against the board members and against the superintendent, claiming that because they didn't provide that 24 hours notice, they were not supporting school personnel. That was dismissed. Another instance, one that I usually point out, 2011, a president of a board violated this code provision by posting the following comments on Facebook with a link to the picture of the superintendent. Now, if we could only do something about the local terrorists that's destroying the dreams and burning the future. That board member was removed from the board. That is, clearly inappropriate email and not supporting school district personnel. Another instance, a board member violated the code when he sent an email to the superintendent, copying the business administrator, all other members of the board, that was threatening, intimidating, and asked the superintendent to write an accounting of her personal leave. Again, not supportive of school district personnel. Proper channels. Board members are limited in that if somebody comes up to you in the supermarket, in the Target, out on the street, at a community event, and is complaining to you about something relating to the schools, you are ethically required to refer those complaints to the chief administrative officer. And you only act on complaints at public meetings after a failure to find an administrative solution. So a lot of times, if you watch our board meetings, if somebody comes to the podium and is bringing up a concern, they may be referred back. If it's a concern regarding one of our buildings, they're referred back to the building level, or they're referred to the superintendent or to the assistant superintendent, because board members have to refer them through the proper channels. Again, here, a board member violated the code by not providing the superintendent with letters because he did not like the superintendent's management style of issues. Instead, he went to the administrators, to the building principal, to try to address those issues. Again, not proceeding through the proper channels. In addition, another area that has been highlighted, we see it a little bit from board members that come on that may be new in districts where there is union trouble. We've not had that here in the district, but you have board members come on and want to meet one-on-one with the union without the superintendent present to hear what's going on. That's an ethics violation. Board members are not permitted to meet with members of the associations without the superintendent present. The reason for that is the administration of the schools is done by the administration. With respect to conflicts, sorry, that took a while, all 10 of those tenants there. I give this to you as a chart because here in New Jersey, we have two separate rules that we have to follow. We have the School Ethics Act, which is the left-hand column, and we have the nepotism regulations that were promulgated as a part of the fiscal accountability regulations in 2008. Both use the same terms, but define them differently. You'll see to the left, relative under the School Ethics Act is limited to a child, sibling, or parent, whereas on the right, it's a lot more people. You also, for years, we had this this term in the School Ethics Act. We call them other. They were called others, and you would know who an other was. An other, a fiance, your paper boy, somebody that you are a casual acquaintance with, your former college roommate. There was no guidance. Thankfully, that loophole's been closed within the last 2 years. I know it's a 15 number, but it wasn't released until 17. Indicating now that others under the School Ethics Act equal relatives. So what does all this mean? If a board member has an immediate family member, again, immediate family member is defined in the prior slide, spouse or partner or dependent child, who's currently a member of the statewide public union, but in another school district, that member cannot participate in any aspect of negotiations until a memorandum of agreement is reached. On the other side, a board member who has an immediate family member who's employed in the district, meaning here in West Windsor, if we had anybody on the board that had an immediate family member here, they could not participate in any aspect of negotiations, including the vote on the successor agreement. A board member who has a relative, again, defined in that chart, who's employed here in the district, cannot participate in negotiations. A board member with a relative who is a member in a statewide union in another school district may be able to participate in negotiations. Those of you that have been here for a while, as you know, when we gear up for negotiations, I come with you with the ethics chart I'll sit with you, I'll ask you questions about your relatives, who works where, and I'm not doing that to be intrusive. I'm doing that because I have to go by this matrix in this chart here to try to figure out who can and cannot participate. This has not been an issue here in West Windsor, but again, this is an area that the Ethics Commission revisits year after year after year. I give the chart to you as a reference point, but we'll be going through this and making our chart in advance of the next board meeting. Last year in March, the Ethics Commission finally clarified for us whether or not cousins constituted relatives, cousins of the first degree, the second degree, or the third degree. Board members get a little spooked when they look at that chart and go, well, my cousin, my second cousin, who I haven't talked to since I was 4 years old, is a teacher in a school district on the other part of the state. Does that mean I can't participate? Well, we finally got some clarification last year. Cousins are not considered relatives. So we're in good shape. If you have an immediate family member that is employed by a substitute staffing company, these are becoming more and more prevalent in school districts across the state. Source for Teachers, Insight, they're just some of the names of some of the staffing companies. If you have a relative that works for a staffing company and that relative is assigned to this school district, that is not a conflict. You are permitted to participate in negotiations and are permitted to participate in discussions of board employees who could supervise that immediate family member. And the reason being, that person is not an employee of the district itself. That's the point that the Ethics Commission made in the very next opinion, that all just as an opposite to staffing companies, where the board itself employs its own substitutes. If an immediate family member is employed by the board as a sub, that's a conflict, and it's a conflict that not only prohibits the board member from participating in discussion of those that may supervise the immediate performance of their family member, but also those who supervise those people, and all the way up the chain to the superintendent. If a board member has a membership in a non-traditional union, AFL-CIO, one of the local electrical unions, plumbers unions, that is not a conflict. That will not preclude a board member from participating in negotiations. The interview process. If you go to trainings by the New Jersey School Boards Association, even though this came out in January of 2016, this is something that they keep reminding people of. The School Ethics Commission does not support board members conducting interviews for any position below that of superintendent. The reason being, the position of superintendent is the only appointment that the Board of Education makes itself without recommendation of the superintendent. If the superintendent does consent, board members can be present for interviews but not participate. So again, this is just something I'm just reminding, because again, it's the New Jersey School Boards Association continues to remind board members of this at the annual convention every year. An interesting opinion from last year, last June, one that I think turned some prior guidance on its head. During a campaign, the local education association, decided on its own to endorse a board member's reelection. They offered that board member financial support in terms of campaign contributions. That support was declined. But they did send around flyers and mailers, one effectively endorsing the member and the other one just providing information. That board member previously served and still did serve on both the negotiations committee and on the board's finance committee. The board was not in negotiations, but had just settled a contract negotiation. Sorry. The SEC was asked whether or not that board member could still serve on negotiations committee and participate in the finance committee in light of this endorsement by the local association. And the SEC said that the endorsement of a candidate alone does not create a per se conflict. They're looking for a financial contribution given. Now, those of you that just ran for re-election know that you're required to file with ELECT, the Election Control Commission, any gifts in kind. I believe the dollar amount is, I think, $300. I think that's what it was before. You're supposed to disclose that. However, from the School Ethics Commission's perspective, unless it's dollars, it is not considered a per se conflict. So legitimate political activity without more, such as dollars going to your campaign fund, does not violate the act and does not create a conflict. Now, why I highlight that is because going back to 2003 up until last year, the guidance was that if a board member was endorsed by a unit in the year in which negotiations were beginning or ending, just endorsed, that board member was precluded from participating in negotiations or even voting on the contract. Now, it appears the Ethics Commission is indicating that unless dollars are contributed to a board member's campaign fund, they don't see it as a conflict anymore. So again, a change. Volunteering. For the last 4 years, we have been getting constant decisions on volunteering, going back to 2015. There was this decision that came out that basically indicated that the Ethics Commission does not want board members volunteering in the school at all, and it kind of scared everybody. Then they realized, oh boy, we just killed our biggest volunteers because, you know, your paychecks are huge. You know, I heard you guys got a raise, another zero added, so congratulations. And so they had to walk that back, and they've been walking that prohibition back steadily and trying to do so in a way that saves a little face, I believe. And this one came in, it was really interesting. The question was whether or not a newly elected board member could still serve in the following PTA positions and serve on the Board of Education. Could they be the PTA president? Could they serve on the district communication committee? Could they be a homeroom parent? Could they be the homeroom parent coordinator? Could they be the coordinator of movie night and the coordinator of field day? This was all one person. This was amazing. God bless this person. You would want this type of person involved in your school district. So the School Ethics Commission looked at this, and in April of last year indicated that, and reminded everybody that when they look at questions of volunteering and appropriateness of volunteering, they look at the interaction that the board members have with staff and students, as well as the degree to which the board member has authority to give and receive directions and orders to staff. The first case where the Ethics Commission said that a board member had overstepped and had crossed the line in volunteering, a board member volunteered to assist with the school play. His wife was the director. He volunteered every year to come in and build the sets, help the kids paint the sets, get everything all set, serve as the stage manager during the play to help move the sets. Because he was giving orders and supervising students, that was a problem. So that was overstepping. Here, the SEC found that the roles of homeroom parent, homeroom coordinator, all of those, are passive, meaning that they're not giving direction, they're serving in a support capacity. So they're permissible. And they found that because in those roles, the board members defer to the principal or the teaching staff member that they help. So homeroom parent's fine, field day is fine, field day coordinator is fine. Even coordinating the homeroom parents, assigning other parents to other homerooms, all that is fine. In addition, the role of PTA president is fine, even though that's not passive. They find that that is not being subject to widespread levels of direction from staff or to staff. So the member is not prohibited from being either the president of the PTA or serving in any other executive function or role in the local PTA. So I see this as a good decision. They're continuing to kind of realize that by issuing that edict that board members really shouldn't be volunteering, they're killing our most effective and most reliable volunteers. The Ethics Commission did remind board members, though, that if you are going to volunteer within the school district, please let the superintendent know, let relevant staff know that you're going to be volunteering, you're going to be present, and that you're doing so in your capacity as a volunteer, not as board member. If you're going to do that, my suggestion is send an email so that there's a written paper trail and it's clearly stated as to why you're in a building during the school day. I went long. My apologies. That's it. I see some, yes, some happy faces. Yes, Ms. Hertz.
On page 9,
Yes.
it says a board member would not violate the code by sending a letter to the editor expressing an opinion about the budget, so long as in the letter or statement you do not hold yourself out as a board member. Can you explain
Yes.
that?
Yeah, what that is you can identify yourself as a member of the Board of Education, but you have to clarify that you are not speaking for the board and that you are speaking for yourself as a citizen. And if there's any question with that, I can give you the appropriate disclaimer language to add.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark. So now we are at our first opportunity for public comment. The board invites thoughts and reactions on agenda items and items of concern from members of the community who are present. Each participant is asked to give his or her name and address prior to making a statement, which will be limited to 3 minutes. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer, and this public comment period shall be limited to 60 minutes.
Good evening. Check, check. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Happy New Year, late Happy New Year. My name is Yingqiao YZ Zhang, Sui-Funded Land from West Windsor. Now, as the New Year comes, I just want to tell everybody, first of all, congratulations to all the re-elected board members, to Michelle, to Rachel, and to Tony. And also congratulations to Michelle and Rachel being the president and vice president. As for myself, as you know, I got elected to the West Windsor Council. Thank you for all the support. And also, yesterday was our reorganization evening, so I got the trust from my distinct colleagues to make me the vice president for the council this year. Also, I took the role of school board liaison, so I look forward to keeping in touch with you, coming to the board meetings as much as I do, and talking about the important issues for our district, to our community altogether. So thank you again for your great work, and thank you for all the board members for your volunteering and helping our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? We'll move on with the business portion of our meeting. We're going to start with voting on the administration items, which are 1 through 6. Can I get a motion on that? Martin and Isaac? Are there any questions or comments?
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Hertz. Yes. Ms. Ho.
Yes.
Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Mr. Whitfield.
Yes.
Mr. Zhang.
Yes.
Mr. Flares.
Yes.
Ms. Juliana.
Yes.
Ms. Case.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, Mr. Chang.
Yes.
All right. Sorry, almost got it. Darn. Yeah.
We don't have any curriculum items on the agenda tonight, so we'll move to finance. I need a motion on items 1 through 10. Louisa and Taylor. Are there any questions?
One comment. Number 7, where it says awarded 2018-19 student transportation contract, multi-contract number RBHC to A1 Limousine, it should have said to Irvin Raphael Incorporated as follows, to Rutgers Behavioral Health. It's just a typo.
Where is that?
Irvin. Yep, Irvin.
Oh, here it is.
We'll start with Ms. Ho.
Yes.
Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Mr. Whitfield.
Yes.
Mr. Zhang.
Yes.
Mr. Flares.
Yes.
Mr. Chang.
Yes.
Ms. Hertz. Ms. Juliana.
Yes to all items except for in C4, abstain on the wireless devices vendor.
Okay, got it. And Ms. Case.
Yes.
Okay, passes.
I need a motion on the 3 personnel items in the agenda, plus the green addendum. Morton and Carol? Are there any questions?
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Mr. Whitfield.
Yes.
Mr. Zhang.
Yes.
Mr. Flares.
Yes.
Mr. Chang.
Yes.
Ms. Hertz. Ms. Ho,
Yes.
Ms. Juliana,
Yes?
Ms. Case.
Yes.
Okay.
I'd just like to take a moment to acknowledge the retirement of 2 teachers on our agenda. Mary Ann Lee, a French teacher who's retiring after 18 and a half years with the district, and Ginny Macaluso, an IRLA teacher at GMS, retiring after 20 years with the district. I wish them both well in their retirements. Are there any board liaison reports? Any new business? So now it's time for the second opportunity for public comment. 15 minutes will be provided at the end of the meeting for public comment. Each participant is asked to give his or her name and address prior to making a statement, which is limited to 3 minutes. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. Okay, so seeing as there's none, the board is gonna need to go into closed session now, so I'm gonna read the resolution. Whereas the Open Public Meetings Act authorizes boards of education to meet in executive session under certain circumstances, and whereas the Open Public Meetings Act requires the board to adopt a resolution at a public meeting to go into private session, now therefore be it resolved by the West Windsor-Plainsboro Regional School District Board of Education that it's necessary to meet in executive session to discuss certain items involving personnel matters and HIB matters noted on the agenda.
And I apologize, Madam President, but there's one other matter for Box 7. The board will be discussing New Jersey First litigations.
Okay, thank you. Be it further resolved that any discussion held by the board which need not remain confidential will be made public as soon as feasible. The minutes of the executive session will not be disclosed until the need for confidentiality no longer exists. Be it further resolved that the board will not return to open session to conduct business at the conclusion of the executive sessions. So can I get a motion, please, to go into closed session? Tony and Taylor. All right, so we'll take a little bit of a break. Oh, those in favor? Aye. We'll take a little bit of a break, and we'll meet in closed session in like 5-10 minutes, right? Thank you very much, everyone.